How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast with your host, Alec Pecano, and co host, Bradley Walker. Before we get started, we want to send our thoughts and prayers and condolences to everybody that was affected by Hurricane Helene last week. That is the reason we were not not live Thursday and Friday. But we are back now.
We both got fortunate enough that we're able to sit here. No one got damage to their houses or cars. So for the ones who did, again, thoughts and prayers to everyone that was affected directly.
Yes, our thoughts and prayers go out to y'all. But let's look at the bright side and let's get to talking about some stuff. We're gonna give our worry level about Michigan and Georgia. We're gonna briefly talk about both teams. First, we're gonna start with Georgia. My worry levels, I'm gonna say right now, I'm not very worried about Georgia. I think they can turn this around. Alabama, for all the grief we give them, Alabama's good.
Yeah, they played USF earlier this year, Tuscaloosa. They are a good football team, and Alec, we were talking before we got on the air a few minutes ago. Kirby Smart doesn't have a good record against Alabama. He's only beat them one time, I think, in 6 games. I think he's 1-5 against them.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue was, and I was watching the game a little bit. I was celebrating. I turned 41 yesterday, but I was celebrating my birthday Saturday night and watching the game at Wing House and how quickly Alabama was up 14-0, 21-0. And you're like, that's Georgia. Like, this is not a team that it's not USF. It's not a cupcake game. This is Georgia. This is the team that was supposed to be. And I can say I can eat my own words because I think the first or second show that I did with Alec, I said, tell me why Georgia's not the best team in the country. Well, now I'm eating my words because it looks like it might be Alabama might be the best team or Ohio State might be better than Georgia right now. So it just comes down to, they're it's early on. They, again, with the 12-team playoff, you can afford a loss. And if you lose early rather than lose late, they'll get this turned around. They might go undefeated the rest of the year because there's no way Florida's beating them. I mean, I don't see them losing another game for the rest of the season because now they'll be, what do they call that? You poke the bear too many times and you piss them off. Well, I think Georgia might be in that PO mode right now where they're like, okay, count us out and then we'll dominate you. So,
well, or as I like to say, you're playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what you're doing with Georgia right now, is you're playing with fire.
Yeah. Yep.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about how worried we are about Michigan. This is 2 weeks in a row that Michigan has almost lost. And I'll let you go first.
If we're, scaling that on 1 to 10 being on the worry level, the highest, and 1, I think with Michigan, I think they're seeing what happens when you win a national championship. Number 1, everyone you got the target on your back. You're not the hunter. You are the hunted. And I think what happens is everyone's trying to beat them to say, hey, we beat the defending national champions. I also think, and with a lot of good teams, you lose a lot of your kids to the NFL, the next level up, and stuff like that. So Coach Moore's got himself in a dogfight here. But I would put the Michigan level somewhere around the 7 or 8 radius because, again, like you said, 2 games in a row, they could have lost both of those games. And I want to say I watched a little bit of the Minnesota game on Saturday, and they were up for a long period of time. I didn't know that it was as close as it was, so I checked the score today. I didn't realize it was as close as it was. So Minnesota almost came back, and they played for the Wooden Barrel or the something like that. I think that's what those two teams play for. So, yeah.
I'm gonna say this. So my worry level for Michigan is like an 8. One, I don't. I know I'm an Ohio State fan, but I don't trust their quarterback. I don't trust Orgy. I do not trust him, and they look very one dimensional. From what I saw, the bits and pieces that I watched in the Michigan game, because I was switching between that, I was switching between USF. Um, I'm worried that Michigan's going to lose at least 2 more games. And they could have lost to Minnesota if when they did Minnesota did the onside kick. If their guy was not offsides, which they came on and said after the game, they had a rules analyst on after the game, and the rules analyst said that the guy was not offsides. He was behind the line when the kicker did the onside kick. So, and I know Michigan fans, you're gonna poke fun at me in the comments because you're gonna say you're an Ohio State fan. You prey on seeing Michigan lose. And you know what? Somewhat I do. But then again, it's college football. Anything can happen. Anything. And I don't think Sharon Moore's on the hot seat at all. I think he's the coach that Michigan wanted to succeed Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a different guy we could start talking about being on the hot seat. And it was the coach on the other side of that game, PJ Fleck. Where would you put? I'll let you go first. Where would you put his hot seat level rating 1 to 10?
Well, according to the game, bud, from what I heard from the commentators, is that he's not on the hot seat. So I think they just signed him to an extension at the University of Minnesota. So I'm not. Where would I put him? I mean, let me ask you this question. With that, is Minnesota expected to win the Big Ten? Because again, when you look at the Big Ten, I know you have USC, UCLA, the new teams that have come into the conference, but the blue bloods are there. Ohio State and Michigan are both good. I mean, Michigan's not as good as they could be or they have in the past, but those teams are still, the 1-2 punch in the Big Ten until someone knocks them off the pedestal. Where would I rank it as far as 1 to 10? PJ Fleck probably to me is a 6 or a 7. I mean, he might be a little bit on the hot seat, but if they can win game, if they get to a bowl game, he saves his job. And I don't know. Minnesota's they've won 2 games already this year. I think they were 2-2 or
Yeah.
something when they went and played. If they can win 4 games on that schedule, then I think he keeps his job. I mean, if they don't win any more games the rest of the season, yes, then you can give him the X at that point.
I'm right there with you. I think he's a 6 or a 7 right now, but that could easily, if they keep losing, that could easily be an 8 or a 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing we're going to talk about before we get into everything else on the show is, if y'all didn't hear, after the Purdue game on Saturday, Purdue fired their offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, which we were talking about this before the show. We weren't expecting that to be the first coach firing to happen. We thought it was going to be Billy Napier, Sam Pittman. We thought it was going to be somebody along those lines. And we are going to give you 3 replacements for offensive coordinators for Purdue. And I will let my co-host give his 3 first.
Okay. I'm going to start with Dirk Cutter. If people in the people in
there's
the
a there's
area.
a reason I'm laughing.
me me and Alex both live in the state of Florida, and you know that name Dirk Cutter because Dirk was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And yeah, it wasn't pretty in those years that he was here.
Nope. And then he went to
Uh,
Carolina, I believe.
he did no, was it Carolina or Atlanta? I don't remember which team he went to.
It,
Something
it
like
was
that. One
Carolina,
of
I
the
think.
one of the division rivals of the Buccaneers in the NFC South. Um, I have him, Dino Babers, or I think that's how you pronounce his last
Yes,
name.
Dino Babers.
And the other one I have, Bud, is Jake Spavato. I think I'm pronouncing that name right. SPA.
Bravado.
Yeah, that's my three. I was going through like the top like coordinators in the game, and I'm like, okay, if they're gonna replace them, they're gonna want to bring in someone that's good. Now I could go the other way, and it could be, a high school coach that they could bring up. It just depends. I don't know. I'm just going by the college guys. I mean, they could bring a college coach or a high school coach up from Texas or Florida that has a great offensive mind. So who knows what Purdue will do.
Here's my three. And one of them I'm going to talk about in another podcast later this week. But tell me if this name rings a bell. He was a wide receiver at Alabama as a walk-on, and he did a spot-on Nick Saban impression. Rob Easel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one, and if you're wondering why South Alabama is having such a good year on offense, it's because of him. And he is one of the bright young offensive coordinators in college football. So I think that's one option. Another one could be, and Ohio State fans, we've been to this movie before. If this guy wants to be an offensive coordinator again, I doubt he does because he's a head coach right now. Tim Beck at Coastal Carolina. Or we could go with somebody that he's not an offensive coordinator, but he's a co-offensive coordinator right now. But I think if you gave him the money, he'd easily, even though it's within the same conference, he'd easily take the OC job at Purdue. Brian Hartline.
I have one that's far out there. How about Jeff Scott?
Yeah, I have one that's far out there, and I didn't know this. He is not at Tiffin College anymore. He's an assistant coach at McNeese State, and he used to play quarterback at Toledo and led them to 2 bowl championship wins. Philip Ely. This is his first year as an assistant coach at McNeese State. And I had no clue. I thought he was still at Tiffin College. And I looked it up the other day. He's an assistant coach and the quarterback's coach for McNeese State, a small school in Lake Charles, Louisiana. But now we're going to get to our upset picks. And again, I will let my co-host go first.
All right, upset picks. I have 3. I have SMU over Louisville, Duke over Georgia Tech, and because they lost last week, I'm going to take South Carolina over Ole Miss.
Okay, here's my 3. And one of them I'm probably going to look dumb for doing because I took them last week to pull an upset. And it just, to put it frank, it blew up in my face. My first upset is Charlotte plus 8.5 to upset East Carolina. I don't trust that East Carolina is going to win more than 2 more games this year. I think Charlotte has a good chance here at pulling the upset. Number 2, Kennesaw State plus 14 and a hook to upset Jacksonville State. And yes, I did take Kennesaw State last week, and it was not an upset pick. It was one of my game picks I do for another podcast. And it for a little bit it was working, and then it backfired. They lost to UT Martin, which I'm not going to even get into that. My last upset is Hawaii plus 2.5 to upset San Diego State. Now, this might be a risk because people are saying Hawaii's been horrible this year. I mean, I kind of see it, but they're not. You're going to tell me they're worse than Wyoming, who doesn't have, just had a couple guys opt out for the rest of the season because they're going to redshirt. And we could talk about that here in a second. But I like Hawaii here to pull the upset. And now, as I mentioned a minute ago, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these guys that are redshirting with either the intent to just redshirt and sit out the rest of the year or the intent to jump in the transfer portal. And we're going to start with the aforementioned, the one that cannot stay out of the news, former UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka, who apparently the reason he jumped in the portal, it wasn't only because he wanted a red shirt after playing 3 games, but apparently UNLV, he was guaranteed $1,000 by UNLV in NIL collective money, and they never gave it to him. And in my opinion, I don't think that's right. If you're going to guarantee somebody that kind of money in NIL, which is name, image, and likeness for those people that don't know, he was guaranteed that and never got it. So he's leaving. He left UNLV and he's in the portal now. And I don't think it's right that he got lied to by UNLV for them say that they were going to give him that kind of money and they never did it. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, no, I at the end of the day, I mean, the NIL deal, I mean, there are people on both sides of the fence. There are people that support the NIL. There are people that are against it and say, oh, these kids, they get 4 years of college for free. We shouldn't be giving them any money. But then again, a lot of these kids, they don't have any money when they go to college. They get that scholarship. That's why they're there. So if you have an opportunity to put some money in your pocket, who would turn that down? I don't think there'd be anyone in this world that would turn down free money if you were able to give it. So why not? And you know what? Maybe he can leave UNLV, go somewhere else and get on and, be a top, not, I'm not going to say first round draft pick, but maybe a second or third round pick in the draft, for however many, what is he? You say redshirt freshman? Is that what you said?
No, he played 3 games and he told UNLV he's redshirting the rest of the year with the intentions, and I quote, with intentions of entering the transfer portal.
So he's going to sit out the rest of the season and then go in the transfer portal at the end of the season. Okay. Yeah, then, let it be. I mean, he thinks that it's going to be better for him to leave UNLV, then go for it. They screwed him over for not paying the money that they owed him, so why not? Go for it.
Mm-hmm. And in Florida State, and this just came out today, that apparently DJ Uiagalelei is going to be out versus Clemson with a hand injury because he broke a finger on his throwing hand against SMU. And everybody's outraged now because Brock Glenn's going to start, and they're like, oh, and they think that's going to turn around Florida State's season. Where are you on that trade? Do you think this QB change is going to spark something within Florida State's offense?
Well, I have that game, but in my picks against the spread, I don't think it's going to help because FSU's been having issues on not only on offense but on defense too. So I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. They're I think they're a 14-point underdog to Clemson. I think Clemson covers that by a lot. Because they can't stop people on defense. So making a quarterback change isn't going to do anything, and you better make sure you keep him upright because if the defense can get to him and knock him around, and you end up injuring him, then who are you going to turn to as your third string quarterback? So Norvell's gonna have to watch that this week too.
Yep. And then I know you probably didn't watch any of the Ohio State game, but you've heard the name Jeremiah Smith.
I have.
Should he be? And we're probably gonna get some mean comments in the comment section, but bring it on. Do you think he should be in contention for the Heisman?
Why not? I mean, it's still a young season. We're only 4 weeks in, but why not? I mean, why not? I know, people say, "Oh, it's too early to pick players," but if they're shining in the first 4 weeks and they continue to do what they're doing, put them up there for the Heisman. Let them be a finalist. It's early in the year. Go for it. Why not?
And I had no clue, but I might rant for a second, but Big Ten, you need to get your games off of Peacock. It is the worst place to put your football games. And the reason I say that is that's Ohio State was on Peacock Saturday night. Tell me which game sounds more appetizing to you. Penn State, Illinois, or Ohio State, Michigan State?
I'd say Ohio State, Michigan State.
Well, they put Ohio State, Michigan State on Peacock, and they put Penn State, Illinois on NBC. Neither game was close. But I bet you there's a lot of Ohio State fans that were not happy that the game was on Peacock because most people can't afford Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see why the Pac-12 never took the media deal from Amazon. Because they figured if we take that, we're going to lose a lot of our fan base.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way that sports are going now. Even the pro level is the same way, where the Thursday night games are on Amazon, and and that's what's happening. Is it's going from regular TV, cable TV, or regular channels as they are in their area, whatever area you live in. They're going away from that and making you pay to watch your favorite teams. Is what they're going to do. So, unfortunately, that's the way it is. The way that it's going.
Okay, we can do picks against the spread. Then we're doing game picks.
Okay,
and I'll let you go first with your picks against the spread.
All right, but I have all overs here. I have Georgia plus the 24 over Auburn. I think again we talked earlier about poking the fire. I think Georgia will roll over Auburn this week, and I think Georgia's at home. I have Alabama plus the 22 over Vandy. I think they'll cover that and then some. I think Vanderbilt's in a lot of trouble at home. And I have Clemson over FSU. I have the over in that one too. I'll take the plus 14. I think Clemson might win by 21 or 28 by the end of the day.
Okay. My picks against the spread, I have 3. My first one is Air Force plus 9.5 to cover. And this is the first game of the Commander-in-Chiefs. Air Force plus 9.5 to cover the spread against Navy. Number 2, and I don't know. I might get laughed at for this because they are horrible in football. UMass plus 7.5 to cover against Northern Illinois. Need I say more? This usually would scream a game to stay away from, even though the point spread is low. But I'm taking the risk, and it's a big risk at that. And then I've got Texas Tech plus 5.5 to cover against Arizona.
Okay.
And now we are going to present, share. We're going to start in the Big Ten. We're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to do 4 games from each conference.
Okay.
And after the show, can you go back over and watch the video to see who we picked?
Do you want me, Bud, to look back on last week too?
No, just this week because we only.
Okay.
So we're gonna start in the Big Ten. We're gonna start Michigan State, Oregon. I think this is an easy pick for both of us. I know I'm gonna take Oregon.
Quack quack. Give me the Ducks.
UCLA, Penn State. As I said, Penn State to me, I did put them in my rankings, but I think the AP polls ranking them way too high. I'm taking Penn State, but I'm a little concerned about this game.
I'm going to take the Nittany Lions only because they're at home and it's tough to beat a team in Happy Valley. And UCLA is coming across the country to Pennsylvania, so I'm going to take the Nittany Lions.
Purdue and Wisconsin. Give me the Badgers.
Yep. Purdue's got no offensive coordinator. I'll take the Badgers.
Here's the game I'll be watching at 3:30 on Saturday. Ohio State, Iowa. Give me Ohio State.
I'm going to take the Hawkeyes in an upset. I know that's probably not going to go that way, but I'm going to take Iowa in the upset.
So that's 4 games there. Now we're going to go to the Sun Belt. Troy and Texas State.
Give me the Trojans. I'll take Troy.
I'm going to have to go the opposite. Give me Jordan McLeod and Texas State.
Okay.
App State and Marshall. Now, I'll go first. Normally here, I would take Appalachian State. But I don't really think they're focused on football right now. If you look at the aftermath of what happened in Boone, I think they're more focused on that than they are football. Give me Marshall in an upset, even though I dog on Marshall all the time.
Yep, give me the Thundering Herd.
Old Dominion in Coastal Carolina. I'm going to say this. It ain't easy going to the Teal Field and beating Coastal Carolina. Give me the Chanticleers.
Yep, I agree. I'll take the same way. Same pick.
And then South Alabama and Arkansas State. To me, this is an interesting game. Look at the spread. -2.5 for South Alabama. 61.5 is the total. Now, if I'm a smart man here and looking at the records, I'm taking Arkansas State.
Yeah, I agree. I'll take Arkansas State as well. They're at home.
So that was 4 games in there. There's really nothing in the Conference USA. There's only 2 games. Houston, TCU.
Give me the Horned Frogs.
Give me the Horned Frogs. Give me TCU. Oh. You see what game we're picking next.
Yeah, I hate this because I'm a Gator fan and I hate UCF, but I'm taking the Knights.
I am too. It's not that I hate the Gators. It's just I don't think they.
No,
Even though look at the spread 3.
that
You
and they're a road. They're a road. The Gators are a home dog. So yeah, yeah.
and the spread's only 3 points. That just that tells me they think UCF might get upset. West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
Mike Gundy. I think we've talked about that in the last few shows. So give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we do not advise picking against Mike Gundy. It it never. How do we say this? It never ends well.
Mm-mm.
Iowa State and Baylor. Hmm. Iowa State's ranked. All I'm going to say is Iowa State, don't sleepwalk into this game thinking you're going to beat Baylor by 30. Don't look down on your opponent. If I've learned anything about college football, don't look down on your opponent. I'm taking Iowa State,
Me too.
but I have a feeling Baylor's going to keep it closer than people think.
Mac.
UMass and Northern Illinois. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to take Northern Illinois. UMass is a basketball school.
So I just talked about how I think Northern Illinois, I mean UMass will cover the point spread. Would I be crazy to think that UMass outright will win this game? Yes, but I think I'm going to take UMass.
Okay, the Minutemen. Okay.
Now it might end up like it did last week when I tried to take Kennesaw State, and it might be a Sharpie that is out of ink and decides it doesn't want to work, or I might look like a genius. Western Michigan, Ball State.
Give me the Broncos.
Give me Western Michigan. Ball State fans, please cover your ears for what I'm about to say. Ball State is pitiful. This is the game of the week in the MAC. Miami of Ohio, Toledo. Give me Miami. Give me the Red
Yeah,
Hawks.
Miami of Ohio. Yep, I like that one.
And I think that was 4. Um Okay, we already did UCF Florida. Missouri, Texas A&M.
I predicted that Missouri would be there in the end. I still think that they'll be one of the 12 playoff teams, but I'm going to go with the home. I'm going to go with the Aggies because they're at home, and College Station is a very, very hard and loud stadium to win in on the road. I'm going to take the Aggies in an upset. I know Missouri's ranked like 9th, I think, in the country right now, so I'm going to take the Aggies.
I am taking Missouri. I believe. Oh, do we even have to say who we're picking? Georgia, Auburn. I think we have talked about it ad nauseum during the show tonight. How you poke the bear or you play with fire, and it's going to come back and It's going to come back and burn you.
Yep.
And that's the case here with Georgia. Auburn fans, I'm sorry. If you were playing somebody else, you'd probably win. Now, we've seen wacky things happen between Georgia and Auburn. Need I remind you of the failed interception attempt a few years back that ended up being a touchdown? I don't think that happens again. Therefore, give me Georgia. Because they are in a foul mood.
Mm-hmm.
So we're both taking Georgia there. Ole Miss, South Carolina.
I'm going to take the game. I had South Carolina in the upset, so I'm going to take the Gamecocks.
As much as I want to take South Carolina, Ole Miss is not happy. And you could tell in Lane Kiffin's post-game press conference on Saturday that he was not happy that they lost. So give me Ole Miss.
Okay.
So that was 3. Tennessee, Arkansas.
Give me the Vols.
Man, I know that pains you to say that.
Mm-hmm. Sure does.
Give me Tennessee. And then I think we get the ACC. Yep, ACC left. Syracuse, UNLV.
Give me the orange.
Syracuse is a 7-point dog, and I have them in an upset on my other show. Give me Syracuse. Louisville, SMU.
Give me the Mustangs. I have them in my upset pick, so give me SMU.
Give me the Ponies. Boston College and Virginia.
BC.
BC. Pitt, North Carolina.
When North Carolina lost to Duke last week, give me Pitt. Give me the Panthers.
Give me Pitt to stay undefeated. And then North Carolina State, Wake Forest.
Give me the Wolfpack.
As we've said, Ignatium, Wake Forest is just there. They're that fly that you swat away. They end up sticking around. Dave Clawson knows how to win. Does he do it against North Carolina State? I'm going to say no. Give me North Carolina State. And you know what? We're going to do a bonus one. Virginia Tech and Stanford.
Give me
give me Virginia Tech, and I'll tell you why. They feel like they got screwed last week against Miami. On that Hail Mary. Huh?
They played Miami tough.
They did. And that was I watched the entire game. That was a touchdown. The last play of the game, that was a touchdown. You can't tell me otherwise. So, and I don't know how they didn't call it a touchdown. They said it was originally, and then they overturned it. And we're back on that no catch rule again.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can do our over-under picks. And I, again, will let you go first.
All right, but I have Army against Tulsa. I'll take 50 in the hook. I think Army stays undefeated. And they are like tearing it up in the American, and Navy's right there on their heels. So what's funny is I'm wondering if both teams end up undefeated at the end of the season. And I know the Army-Navy game is not a conference game this year because they've already come out and said that. But I'm wondering if they're both undefeated, the winner of that game wins the American. I'm just throwing that out there. I have Missouri. I took, even though I took the Aggies, that won't make any sense. You know what? I'll take Texas A&M in the under, 48.5. I'll take that in the under. I think that'll be a low scoring game. And then I have, I hate to say this, but I have the Vols over the 59 and a hook against Arkansas. I think that offense is right now looks unstoppable, and I think they'll put up it'll be over 60 points combined for both of those teams when it's all said and done.
Okay, I'll give you mine. So my first one is Houston TCU. The total is 49.5. I'm taking the over. We've seen TCU can score.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is Houston going to be able to score and keep up?
Correct.
I think something tells me maybe they do. Maybe Willie Fritz figures it out and they end up scoring around 30 points to try to keep up with TCU.
Mm-hmm.
My second one, we went over this game a few minutes ago and game picks Ohio State, Iowa. The total is 44.5. And normally I would take the under. But like I said, I watched the Ohio State game on Saturday last week, and they looked. I'm going to say this before I tell you what I'm taking. Will Howard. I liked Kyle McCord, but I think Will Howard is a way better quarterback than Kyle McCord. And I know there's going to be Ohio State fans out there that say it's still way too early to determine who's actually better. In my opinion, I think Will Howard's the better quarterback. But I'm taking over the 44 and a hook. And then the last game, and we did this one in game picks too, Miami, Ohio, Toledo. Totals also at 44 and a half, unironically. Same total as Ohio State and Iowa. But something tells me there's not going to be a heck of a lot of scoring in this game. So I like the under. But again, would this be if you're going to bet on any of these games and take over or under or the picks against the spread or upsets, please be responsible. Please be responsible with your betting. Because betting can become an addiction. And neither me or Bradley want to see anybody that watches this show turn into somebody that has a betting addiction.
Mm-hmm. And it can happen quickly. Very quickly.
Yes. Yes, it can. Now we are going to debut a new segment tonight. It is called Finding Guys Lower on the Depth Chart that we think can make an impact. And we're going to do it straight from where we were doing the game picks. We're just going to go to standings. Mm-hmm. And Bradley, I'll let you go first. You get 4. You tell me what team, and I will click on the team.
Miami, the Hurricanes.
Okay. So that is ACC. Miami.
I have tight end Elijah Arroyo is the guy that I have.
Okay, so let me get down to tight ends. Okay, so Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah, he had very few catches last year. Again, as we've seen, Miami has a very explosive offense. He's been a big part of it so far this year. So one of those guys that you don't expect to make catches in that offense, but he's done a pretty good job so far this year. I think you could see the stats there. He's got 11 catches, 272 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, again, not somebody who is expected to catch the ball a lot, but tight end is a pretty important position in college. So, I went with him.
Okay, you get 3 more.
Kentucky.
Okay. You know what? I'll just do this. Teams. Let me guess. Is it a quarterback?
It is Brock Vandergriff. Vandergriff? I think that's how you pronounce his last name. They had an upset last week, so so I'm gonna go with him. Again, he's one of those guys that's again, what I think wasn't I don't know if he was supposed to be the starting quarterback this year in Kentucky. I'm not sure, but I took him. I was looking at the stats earlier today. But yes, that would be my second pick for that.
Okay. Who's your third one?
Would be wide receiver from Army, Casey Reynolds.
Oh, wrong conference. American Army.
Again, they don't. Again, if anyone out there knows that Army doesn't throw the ball a lot, but you can see he's got 2 touchdown catches. So to have 2 in an offense that's run basically off the run in the triple option, I took him as one of those guys that you don't hear a lot about, but is low on the depth chart. So yeah, I took him.
And who's your last one?
I'm going to go with a local kid. I'm going to go with Kelly Joyner of USF. He has been had injuries, and last year they put him at wide receiver. Now he's back at the running back position, and he has again. The Bulls have struggled with running the football the last couple games, but he's a big part of that running game. So I'm going to go with Kelly Joyner Jr.
Okay. I'm going to give you my 4. And I will start in the Big Ten. I'm going to start at Indiana. He's a quarterback, and he's a freshman. And no, it is not Alberto Mendoza. It is Tyler Cherry, 6'5", 219, out of Greenwood, Indiana. I understand Curtis Rourke, who it seems like has been in college football for ever. He's the starting quarterback right now. But again, he's another guy. We've seen this movie before. He starts, he does good. But then towards the middle of the end of the year, he has a couple bad games and he gets benched. It happened at Ohio. Not saying it's going to happen in Indiana, but if it does, watch out for Tyler Cherry, the freshman quarterback, to take his job. So that's number 1. Player number 2 is in the SEC, and he's at Texas A&M. He's a quarterback. Marcel Reed. You see his stats on the screen are correct. He's thrown for 585 yards and 6 touchdowns in 3, I believe it's 2 or 3 games. And they've got Missouri this week. We don't know the injury report is not out yet for Texas A&M for this week. But I'm going to let you know right now, I don't think Connor Weedman is getting his starting job back. I think Marcel Reed is taking this job and running with it. And I don't understand how Tennessee let this kid get out of the state and go to Texas. As you can see, he's from Nashville, which isn't that far from where Tennessee is located. So that is player number 2. Player number 3 is on Big 12. I'll tell you right now, he might be another Noah Fafita. Who comes out of nowhere. It is a quarterback, of course. You see KJ Jefferson is the starter right now at UCF. And they have a kid, EJ Colson. I hope I'm saying that right. From Byron, Georgia. 6'1", 200 pound. Okay, he might be a little undersized. But, and my co-host can back me up on this. He's an SEC guy. You've seen firsthand the KJ Jefferson experience. Let UCF fans know how it ends.
Yeah, not good. He was at Arkansas. I got to see him in the final Outback Bowl before they changed it to the Raclette Bowl when they played Penn State. But yeah, Gus Malzahn, you need to change quarterbacks. I think I agree with my co-host's pick with the guy on the depth chart. I think we'll see how it goes at UCF. And again, they play Florida this week in the Swamp. We'll see how they do if they're only a 3-point favorite. Like my co-host said, maybe they're due for an upset. So who knows if Florida can pull one off.
So that is number 3. Number 4 are going to the ACC. And it's not Florida State. It is North Carolina. And you've heard of the quarterback carousel in the NFL. Well, I think it's making its way over to college football. Because North Carolina's gone through Max Johnson, Connor Harrell, Jacoby Criswell. I don't think they're done. I think there is one more quarterback that might see playing time this year for North Carolina, and it is freshman DJ Mazan out of Atlanta, Georgia, 6 foot 175. Either him or freshman Hudson Wilhelm, 6'5". Oh boy, 6'5", 195 out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Which is, yes, and I understand all 4 of my guys were QBs, but I'm willing to try to find the next Noah Fafita, which he completely came out of nowhere. He wasn't even the starter at Arizona last year. Arizona had somebody else starting, and then Fafita started getting more reps in practice, and he took over their job. So we are now going to talk about 3 head coaches that are in the hot seat, and if they get fired, 3 replacements. And I'll let you go first.
I mean, mine really haven't changed. Billy Napier's still on the hot seat. I don't really know because again, they were mentioning this, I think either on College Game Day or on the Fox broadcast that they do, that Florida just recently upgraded their, playing facilities and stuff like that, where a lot of other schools were already ahead of them in that game. That job is not as big as it used to be. So I'm not really sure. Probably be a coordinator that takes that job. It might be a big name, but I highly doubt that. Um, let's see. What's gonna say? Uh, I Purdue already fired their offensive coordinator. Why not just go from scratch and fire your head coach too and start? I mean, get a new coaching staff there in total. I'm not sure again who out there again would take that job again because Purdue's in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten. Um, and I would say Dion, but I think Dion, as I just heard before I came on the podcast, that Stephen A. Smith thinks he's going to win Coach of the Year, which he might if they continue to win. They beat a good UCF team on Saturday night on the road in Orlando. Um, so I'm going to go with Colorado State's head coach. I think he's on the hot seat. I mean, they were supposed to beat Colorado, they didn't. It was a close, that game kind of got out of hand in the second half. So I would put those three as far as the ones who I think are on the hot seat that could lose their job by the end of the year.
Now, I want to ask you something before I give you mine. I'm seeing rumors out there that people think Lane Kiffin might take the Florida job. Do you buy it?
No, why would you leave Ole Miss? He's got a good program there in Mississippi. And he coached at Tennessee. I don't know how many Florida fans are going to put up with that. Number one, I'm one of them. That you're the enemy. That would be like coaching at Florida State and coming over there. I don't buy that. I think he stays at Ole Miss. I mean, unless the Gators roll out the Brinks truck, there's no way that they're going to be able to get him to come out of Ole Miss, in my opinion.
Okay, here are my three. Number one, Ryan Walters, Purdue. You mentioned it a second ago. I think I have the perfect replacement for him. It's a group of five coach that has been hesitant to take a big time job. This guy coaches in the American right now at UTSA. Jeff Traylor. I think we've already seen Purdue fire their offensive coordinator, like we talked about earlier on the podcast. But I'm with you. They probably should fire Walters and get an entirely new staff in there. And I think the perfect guy would be Jeff Traylor because we've seen his recruiting skills with a limited budget at UTSA. Imagine what he could do at Purdue. He already mastered recruiting the state of Texas. He probably could recruit the state of Florida. He would most certainly be able to recruit the state of Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan. So that's who I would replace Ryan Walters with at Purdue if he gets fired. I'm going to go a little bit off the map here. I'm going to say Timmy Chang, Hawaii. If Hawaii continues to struggle, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but maybe they consider firing Timmy Chang and bringing in a new head coach. And maybe, and this guy said he wants to get back into coaching, John Gruden. And then the last one, Billy Napier at Florida. And if you want to, you can laugh at me for what I'm about to say. If Napier gets fired, his replacement, I don't think it's Lane Kiffin. I think they take a coordinator from a group of five school, and maybe it's the South Alabama offensive coordinator, Rob Easel, if he's ready to be a head coach. If not, then maybe they try to poach a Chip Kelly, a Garrett Riley, or somebody away from a bigger from Ohio State or Garrett Riley at Clemson? Because I think Clemson fans are getting very, very tired of Garrett Riley. And then a dark horse, I highly doubt he gets fired, Dabo Swinney. And if Dabo gets fired, maybe Garrett Riley ends up being promoted to head coach.
Hmm.
Who's your dark horse?
For the Florida job?
That and a dark horse to get fired.
Who is the head coach but an Air Force?
Troy Calhoun.
I think if they don't win, because I think they're 1-3 right now. They have Navy this week. I think if they continue to lose, he might get the axe. I mean, that's a dark horse thing because it's an academy. And for everyone out there, guys, the academies are not teams that are going that they expect to have a winning season or be in the college football playoff. So that, again, would be the dark horse. You were talking about John Gruden. I mean, there would be a name in Gainesville that would draw a lot of eyes to the Gators if he went back there. The only problem that I have with John Gruden is Gruden is a dictator, and I don't know if his coaching style will fit well in college because, yes, you can yell at kids, but only to a certain extent do they stop listening to you. So he would have to kind of tone that down a little bit. If he can, I could see him at Hawaii or in Gainesville or somewhere else as a head coach.
See, and that's the thing I get at too, is he's a dictator, and it worked in the NFL with the Buccaneers. And originally when he went to the Raiders, it worked. But then he went back to the Raiders, and it went. I think it was the Raiders he went to for a second time, and it didn't work because of the whole email, the whole email scandal. But, and then there's a couple other names because they had a whole list of people that were in for the Florida job. You tell me yes or no. Steve Spurrier.
No, too old.
They Will Muschamp.
No, been here, done that.
They said Dion.
He's got something at Colorado unless they no. He's not going to come to Florida. He played. He's a Seminole. He's not going to come. No.
Then why, when he was looking, why did he want USF?
I think he wanted USF because it's a program on the rise. Same with Colorado. I think he wanted in a way, he wanted a project. He wanted to go there and bring the program out of the darkness. Yes, the Gators are in that position right now. I just highly, highly doubt that a Florida State Seminole would be head coach at Florida.
Money talks.
True.
I'll give you a couple more.
Okay.
Jeff Scott.
No. No. I mean, yeah, he'd have more money, but he couldn't recruit in Florida, and no, you got to win. You got to win some battles in the state of Florida when it comes to recruiting. No.
Tom Allen, current defensive coordinator at Penn State.
Now, that might be something because the Gators have always been good on defense. Yeah, that might be a good option. That might be a good option.
Andy Kotelnicki, offensive coordinator at Penn State.
I think either one of them would be a good fit. If they're ready to become a head coach, give them a shot. Why not?
Well, Tom Allen was a head coach.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Indiana.
So he would, and then yeah, because what's his name is gone after this year, right? The Mertz is gone. He he was at Indiana, right? Mertz was at Indiana before
No,
he.
Mertz was at Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was a Badger. That's right. That's right. Um,
Um,
yeah. I mean, either one of those coordinators, Bud, would I think would be a good fit for the Florida job.
I got another one. Paul Christ, former Wisconsin coach.
Well, I mean, if he can recruit, obviously they got it. The Gators need an overhaul on defense and offense. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get the kids to play and buy into your system, why not? There's going to be a fresh face, I think, at the end of the season anyway. It's just curious on how the AD and how they're going to go, which way they're going to go next year.
Kurt Campbell, current offensive coordinator at Michigan.
No, I don't think he leaves Michigan. I don't think he does. I think he stays there with Coach Moore. I don't think that's an option.
Would you take Chip Kelly?
Chip would be just like John Gruden. It would be a big name. Chip is an offensive guy, so he'd have to have a good defensive-minded DC. That's an option, but does he want to leave Ohio State? I mean, I'm not saying that Ryan Day is on the way out, but do you think that Chip may hang in there and say, hey, when Ryan's ready to step away, I can take over the program? I don't know if that's the way it's going to go, but yeah, I mean, Chip would be, he's a crazy coach. He was at UCLA, so yeah.
Well, here's my thing. We said the same thing with Bill O'Brien, and look what happened 2 weeks later. He ends up becoming the head coach at Boston College because Hafley, that's another guy, Jeff Hafley. Could you see him coming back to college ranks and coaching at Florida?
There could be some OCs and DCs in the NFL too that could come and be a head coach. If it's not going so well, in the pro level, and then there's some bad teams out there. So why not? Bill O'Brien is an example of that. He was a bad coordinator for the Patriots and took the job at BC, and look where the Eagles are at right now. So it could
happen. Hold on. I'm not done yet. I'm going to give you more names for go down my list here. Zach Kitney, Texas Tech offensive coordinator.
I think if they're going to get a new coach, I think an offense, because just like I said, I know they've always been good on defense, but if you think back, Spurrier, Urban Meyer, they were all offensive-minded guys, so I would go with an OC if that's the way the Florida wants to go.
Would you take either Pat Shurmur, yes or no, for the head coaching job at Florida?
Pat Shurmur, yeah, he's been around. I mean, they might want to go with a veteran coach and not somebody new, but I would think if the way the team is struggling right now, why not give a fresh face an opportunity?
How about Robert Livingston, defensive coordinator at Colorado?
Yes. That would be somebody that a fresh face that wants to become a head coach. Why not?
What about Alex Atkins, Florida State offensive coordinator?
I doubt. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not in the realm of possibility that your state rival comes over, but that would be hard to say. I mean, a lot of FSU fans, I think, would be pretty pissed off if he did become the Florida coach. But yeah, I don't think that.
Final one I'm going to give you: Tim Banks, defensive coordinator, Tennessee.
No, he won't. Now That's hard too, because that's within the conference, and that's a conference rival. And Tennessee and Florida have a pretty interesting rivalry.
Nasty.
No way. I don't think that's happening either.
Okay, I'll give you a bonus one. Either of the coordinators at South Florida, Joel Gordon or Todd Orlando.
No, neither one of them will do very well as a head coach. I can tell you from this year with USF. I mean, the Bulls are going to have to take the bye week to find something right, because they got blown out by Tulane. They have to play Memphis, who the other team I thought was going to possibly win the American. They still might by the end of the year, but yeah, no, no.
So you don't see it. I mean, I'm not saying it has to be this year, but maybe down the line. Could you see them being a head coach?
Yeah, I could see it, but I could see if USF, again, there's still a lot of football left, and I think the Bulls will be in the thick of it to win the American. I know the Bulls will at least win 6 games. There's definitely 6 wins on that schedule. But yeah, I could see in the future them possibly being head coaches.
Okay. And I think that's going to wrap up tonight's podcast. We will see you again. Well, why don't we tell everybody why? So we don't normally do our podcast on Wednesday, but this week we have to because my co-host has a obligation on Friday night.
Yeah, I will be announcing for Pinellas Park High School. This will be my last game of my second season, because I'll be out of town next week. But yeah, I will. We, like Alex said, we usually do the podcast on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. But I will be now. I think, guys, I'm gonna put it on my social media. I will send a link out if you guys want to hear me. I can't show any video of plays because that's not good for the team. I can show my face, but I can't show you guys the field. So, but yes, I'll be calling a high school football game on Friday night.
So that is why he will not be here. But that's going to do it for tonight's podcast. We will see y'all back here tomorrow night and Thursday night. We are signing off for Bradley and Alec. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday night.
Good night, guys.
There we go.